Our hero Dan Wang becomes the fist king of the martial arts world by winning every fight using only his bare fists. One day, the unbeatable hero was suddenly surrounded and attacked by a group of evil demons. He puts down most of them, but two are left standing. These two are strong enough that they won't hesitate to kill their own friends just to get what they need. Wang realizes who they are because of their cruel nature and the symbol on their weapon. Wang charges at one of them, shouting that he'll knock him out in 10 hits. But every time he swings, he misses the vital spots because thin threads holding him in place stop him. So when he tries 9 times, the puppet master pulls tighter on Wang while his enemy slashes his body with a sword. Before he even closed his eyes, he managed to hit his enemy in the jaw for the 10th time. With that, his life as Dan Wang ends right as he wishes one last blow against his enemy. He wakes up in the Jewish safe house as Li Jinan, the oldest son of the Yunhe merchant family. When he wakes up, he checks for any wounds and finds nothing. But the strange face looking back in the mirror makes him think someone just slapped a mask on him. Then, after taking a closer look, he decides to turn down that idea. Once the maids run off to fetch a doctor, he decides to figure out what's going on and starts looking around. As he moves, he discovers that this body is so fragile that even getting around is a huge struggle. He finally discovers a journal belonging to the Yunhe merchant group, a powerful and well-known trading family from Jua Mountain. After reading the journal, he realizes he's trapped inside the body of Li Jinan, a notorious scoundrel known for his endless tales of gambling and women. After taking a good look at everything, he realizes he might actually be Li Jinan reborn. Right then, his doctor Gongan slips in with a smile like a sly fox and quietly checks his pulse. He pulled his hand away and told him that he was fine. The snake of a physician then offers him a bowl of dragon and phoenix soup, pretending it is a health tonic. But the truth is this soup is deadly poison for someone sick like Jinan. Instead of speaking up, Jinan quietly wonders how long it's been since Dan Wang died, realizes it was only a short time ago, and understands that his enemies are still alive. He thinks about his old doctor and his enemies, and now that he lives again, he decides he will kill them all. Since Dan Wang was reborn as Li Jinan, his maids are eager to prepare a proper breakfast for him to finally eat after his long, strict diet of porridge, while they rush to finish before he returns from his walk. Her words stop abruptly as the door swings open and Jinan walks in. He tasted the breakfast, told them to keep things simple from now on, and insisted they do it just like this. Walking to his room, a maid spots his stronger body and praises his recovery, while others quickly join in to agree. After a bit of time passed, Jinan began his breakfast just as the cunning snake Gongan Meng slipped in to ruin his morning. Jinan lets him in with a scowl, but Gongan just grins wider despite sensing the bad attitude. Meanwhile, Jinan watches him with a doubtful eye, knowing this man always has a hidden plan whenever he speaks. A smirk curls on Jinan's lips as he plots to make him spill the truth about his crime. So, he casually asks why Gongan is there. Just then, Gong breaks into his usual dramatic act about how lonely he feels. So he visits Jinan and quietly points out that Jinan's skin has changed, instantly ruining Jinan's progress and recovery with just one sharp comment. This draws Jinan's attention, and he jokes that Gongan must be trying to trick him into drinking dragon phoenix soup. Gongan doesn't think he knows anything about the soup, so he quickly tells him it's just a simple health tonic. Jin casually mentions that it's poisonous. Gongan reminds him that he is his doctor, and seeing he's about to get caught, Gongan suddenly makes a showy gesture and says that since Jinan clearly doesn't need him, he'd best go. Before he could even take a single step, Jin's voice cut him off. In the shadows, Jinan questions if Gongan is truly the master here, since he moves in and out of his room as if on no fixed plan. When Jinan sees the look on his face, he chuckles and reminds him it was just a joke, while Gongan nervously goes along with the act. Jinan tells Gongan to get writing tools so he can write a letter, but once Gongan returns with them, Jinan insists that Gongan write it himself. He orders Gongan to stay in the villa because of his terrible sickness, then surprises him by saying he has too much life left, leaving Gongan confused and needing his master's advice on what to do next. Jinan notices his face, asks why he stopped writing, and tries to play it off while asking him to explain. Just as he finishes speaking, Jinan hurls a chopstick at him, giving him a light scratch on the neck and embedding the stick in the wall behind him. Now, truly scared, Gongan looks at his wound. Jinan's face becomes serious as he says he is no longer the same man Li Jinan Gong knows. Gongan tries to play dumb, but Jinan decides it's time to face the truth. He knows the dragon phoenix soup is only medicine for the healthy, yet Gongan, a doctor himself, fails to realize that for a sick person like him, it's actually poison. He had Jinan drink this soup the day before, and the next morning, he checked Jinan's pulse to see how it had changed. Not only that, But when Jinan told him to leave the soup on the counter, his face showed clear signs of wanting to kill. Jinan says that since someone like Gongan can't act alone, he tells him to write his master's name on the letter. Gong starts with a grand gesture, asking how Jinan could ever doubt someone so kind. Then he lets out a big, dramatic sigh, only to drop the show and show who he really is. He sneered, mocking the idea that a scoundrel like Jinan had a brain to figure anything out. Jinan realizes the game is over, but Gongan coldly admits that his only goal now is to kill him quietly. Now Gongan looks at the servants and decides he must kill them to cover up Jinan's murder. But before he can even ready his poison needle, Jinan suddenly appears behind him and knocks him down in one swift attack. Jinan casually went back to eating and told Gongan he shouldn't get distracted when they talk. As he stared at the bruised hands from his blow to Gongan, he felt frustrated with how weak his own body was. All he has to do is regain the strength he used to have before. He knows that once he pulls it off, he'll become unstoppable and ready to take on the whole Yunhe merchant group if they really did try to kill him. To dig deeper into Gong Sun's mystery, he has to go back and join the group, but one day, a sudden pounding headache knocks him to his knees. He remembers Gong Sun, and then all the memories of Li Jinan's body flood into him at once. Once the shockwave fades, a tear rolls down his cheek as he learns that Jinan was just an average kid, while his second and third brothers were far smarter and stronger. To escape feeling ordinary, he did something no sensible person would do, spending money on harmful pleasures until his health collapsed, and he was trapped with no way back. They lied and sent him to the villa to help him heal, but it was really just a prison far away from everyone he loved. But his clan barely cared that their useless eldest son spent his whole life here. Now, living inside Jinan, Wang is ready to pick up his martial arts again, finally having the memories he needed to start. Feeling angry that the real owner wasted this perfect body on indulgence, he decides to use his past life's knowledge to make it count by finding rare elixirs. As he walks into the villa, he spots his savings and feels a wave of relief that he won't run out of cash, meaning he can now easily buy the elixirs he needs. His eyes land on Gongan, who has turned to dust from his last mighty blow, so he makes the call to bury the body. From this day on, a whole year flies by like it was just a quick breath. One day, Mok, a guard from the Yunhe merchant group in Siup, arrives to drop off a letter for Jinan and asks a maid where he is, so she points him to where Jinan is meditating. The moment Mok spots his own new shape, his eyes go wide with shock because he can't believe he is actually seeing Jinan. All year long, our determined guy spent every moment building his strength until his inner energy sparked to life, filling him with the survival skills he needed. The art of moving with clarity, the art of using his body wisely, and the power of fast, sure steps. Beyond that, he has also mastered the white lightning 10-phase art, letting him command the power of lightning. After all that hard training, he finally made it to the 4th stage of martial arts. But for him, that wasn't nearly enough. Right then, his training stops when Mok's voice calls out, nervously saying hello and introducing himself. Mok says he's brought a letter from the main clan. Jinan calmly asks him to hand it over. Mok stares in disbelief, seeing the weak, coughing man from last year standing tall and strong right before him. His thoughts get cut short by Jinan's sarcastic voice, which snaps at him that he's still waiting for that letter. As Jinan and Mok relax after their busy days, he reads the letter. The news of his father's sudden sickness and bedridden state leaves him wondering why this happened. Hearing this, Mok whispers his doubts about the Wang clan. This clan is just a pack of vultures tricking the Yunhe merchants into paying huge fees for protection they don't need. As the years went by, the payments grew so big that they could no longer be made without serious thought. He questions if the Wang clan has done enough to truly deserve this pay raise. Mok gets so mad at the group that he shouts at them, insisting they deserve nothing. He remembers when the university group got into trouble with a small deity sect try to force a huge tax on their trade. And at that moment, the Wang clan just casually told them they had nothing to do with them unless they needed to meet for serious talk. Mok points out that even the captain can't do anything about Wang Hu since he's tied to the group. And this name catches Jinan's attention because he knows him from his days with Jiang Hu, where Wang Hu was a very famous man. Now Jinan finally sees the truth. Yu Yang, who is a bully using his strength to crush the weak Yunhe merchants. So Jinan makes up his mind that this fight will end with either death or him personally teaching the brutal lesson. Mok is stunned at first, but he continues to explain another problem that has left Jinan's father unable to walk. It turns out his younger brothers were so foolish they started a sword fight in front of the whole Yunhe merchant group, and he couldn't believe their stupidity because it made their father so angry and stressed that he fell ill. Mok tries to soothe him by saying it's not his problem, but he snaps him off and stands up because he can no longer just sit back, leaving Mox shocked by his sudden determination. So our boy takes Mox's hand and insists he hold onto that letter, promising to watch the truth unfold with his own eyes. Back with his squad, Mox immediately shares the shocking news that a man like Li Jianan has turned into a martial artist. The moment his friends heard what he said, they all broke out laughing. Some folks insist he must be amazing in bed, while others argue that if someone as wild as Jianan can turn into a martial artist, then he has to be a total legend. One of his friends suggests he tell a funny story about how the vice captain has finally found a lover. Vice Captain Haney eavesdrops on their talk and wants to know if Jianan really got his health back after punching the guy who tried to move him. Hanya insists that Jinhan has been training as a martial artist since he was a kid, all because his body is so naturally gifted. Han asks when Jianan will be back, and Mox admits he isn't sure, since Jianan only said he's returning. Right then, they hear the announcement that Jianan is coming, and they know the time has finally arrived. Han orders his men to greet their young master, but they refuse, so he sternly reminds them that he is still their master, while Wang stares in shock at the Yuna merchant group's palace, realizing that Jianan is not just wealthy, but absolutely filthy rich. He tells his maids to take a break because he is off to see his father. As he stepped forward, the sudden quiet made him feel strange because not a single soul stopped to say hello. Soon his wish comes true as a huge crowd of guards steps up with their swords to welcome him. Then Han greets him, saying that Jianan looks so different he almost isn't the same person. He also shows his joy at seeing him healthy, while Han's followers think he is just flattering Jianan because they believe Han has no pride since their master used to insult him for being too kind. Right then, they're getting ready to take a rough jab. However, they're truly shocked when Jianan greets them by saying it's a wonderful welcome for someone as troublesome as him. Mox insists that Jianan has truly changed, even as everyone looks at him in shock. Seeing this, Han, who is walking our boy to his father's room, softens his expression, and Jianan finally feels like he is on their side rather than an enemy. As they walk in, Han tells him his dad already knows he's here, and he gives thanks for that. Just as they're talking, his youngest brother Jaeon cuts in with a sneer, calling him a pervert. Seeing him this way, Jaeon remarks that he looks like a totally different person. When Jianan dares to glare at him, Jaeon squeezes his fist right against his shoulder. Han gently pulls Jaeon's hand away from Jianan's shoulder, reminding him that after so long apart, both brothers should be celebrating their reunion instead of fighting. But to his surprise, Jaeon suddenly slaps Han hard for touching him without asking. Jaeon doesn't like how he's been acting and warns him to stop, asking if he thinks he's better than him. In the next breath, he says he's ready to show him what's up. Before he could move, our guy slapped him so hard the man hit the ground. Jaeon is totally lost and doesn't know what to make of this. In the next moment, Jianan squeezes his fist hard against Jaeon's shoulder, showing off his power and excitement for the trip, while Jean screams in pain, cursing his brother and calling him crazy. Hearing this, our guy deadpans that he'll start calling him Big Brother right now. Meanwhile, Li Huayan, the second son of the Yuna merchant family, spots a big stir right outside his father's room. He turns to Han, and the vice captain mentions that an argument has broken out between the eldest and younger brothers. Hearing the news, Huan instantly worries her eldest brother is being bullied by John and rushes inside, only to be shocked when Jianan appears instead, sternly telling his younger brother to keep quiet while they are near their father's room. Then he spots the middle brother standing nearby. After a brief pause, Huiyan sits down before his oldest brother, who orders John to keep his hands raised as punishment. When he sees him, Huan feels a wave of relief knowing he is healthy. But Jin's face shows he's still upset, so Jianan tries to cheer him up by reminding him that he's finally healthy again. Then he spots Huan's broken fist and wonders if Jin did it. Huiyan tries to ignore the question, but our boy gets so mad at his little brother for raising his hand that he slaps him hard. Poor Jian has no choice but to give in or face another beating, and he can't believe he's still the weak Jianan who used to massage his shoulder just to avoid getting hurt by his younger brother. Huan's face shows a mix of worry and joy as he watches Jianan beat John, remembering how things used to be the opposite back then. After Jianan finally relaxes, Huo wonders why his brother seems different and has changed, but instead of answering, he just remarks that his middle brother has sharp eyes for noticing the scrolls before him. As he opens one, he asks what's inside, and Huan tells him the scroll lists the employees who will join him at the conference room tomorrow. Then he checks the list of employees and spots Gongin's name, since looking at any worker is his main job. After glancing at the list, he instantly finds what he's looking for. Gongin and many others are highly recommended by none other than Wang Hu. He turns to his brothers with a dark look and asks if either of them is working for Wang Hu. Both brothers angrily refuse, screaming that they can't give their trading company to that clan. He smiles, realizing he doesn't have to kill his brothers since they're telling the truth. Once decided, he stands up and checks if all the bosses will be at the conference, and his nerdy brother says yes. With that, he announces he's going to the conference too. Before anyone could even speak up, he walked out of the room without even listening to their complaints. They are totally shocked to see their brother's personality change so suddenly. Right then, Jian wants to head to Jua Mountain too, while Jinan waits outside his dad's door before getting permission to step inside. His father, the head of the merchant group, spots him right away. He wonders what the noise outside is all about, but Jinan just shrugs it off and sits down. Then he talks about rumors of his father being stressed out, and his dad agrees, saying his old body can no longer handle the pressure. His father reaches out to touch his son's face, marveling at how healthy and transformed he looks, and asks if he is truly Jinan. As the father expresses his joy and holds him gently, something deep within Wang stirs because, though he never knew a parent as a child, he now understands the feeling of having a father, recalling him as a strong, broad-built man. He takes her hand and sees just how weak she has become. At that, he offers comfort, promising to wipe away everything that led him to this moment. His father doesn't believe it at first, but the man insists everything is under control and nothing to worry about, until seeing that determined look makes his own father start sweating. The next day, everyone meets in the Yunhe Merchant Group's conference room as Huan briefs them. Wu Yong, who is standing right there too. His team, who were wondering where he was, spot Jinan right away. Oang thinks Jinan is here to make himself stronger in the group, while Huan waits for everyone to say if they have any problems after giving his talk. Just before he can move on, Wang Hu holds up his hand and says he has a demand to make. He recommends someone to watch over Jinan, since he doesn't have a guard right now. Suddenly, the Yunhe merchants get all stirred up by this intrusion, especially since they're already packed with workers suggested by Wang Hu. But anyone who dares to speak out gets scared by Wang Hu and ends up staying quiet. Wang Hu asks if anyone objects to his plan, but no one speaks, frozen with fear. Right as he's about to move on, our boy shoots up his hand to say, "Wait, I got some objections." He then seriously suggests firing the squad guard leader, Wang Hu. The Yunhe merchants' hearts sank with worry as the words reached their ears. As the Wang clan laughs, convinced he's just joking, they forget that Wang Hu is the very guardian keeping their merchants safe. Hu, however, is full of himself. He tells our boy that lying in bed so long has made him forget he has no right to fire him. Suddenly, Jinan does something nobody could have guessed. He punches the ground with such force that the whole building nearly shakes. Then, in a slow pan, he reminds the snake that even with Wang's help, he's forgetting that Jinan is the true boss of the Yunhe merchant group. Not long ago, he told Huiyan he was going to fire Wang Hu, but Huan thinks that's a bad idea since the Wang family is much stronger than them. Instead of giving a straight answer, he asks, when people underestimate John Hu's fighters, don't they get eaten alive because they're too arrogant? Then he points out that so many of the people around them belong to the Wang clan, making the Yunhe merchant group feel like they're being swallowed whole. His nerdy brother, seeing this, gets what he's trying to say. Jinan puts his mind at ease, promising to take care of everything himself. Hua gives a nervous smile as he realizes exactly how his older brother plans to handle things. Watching this, the Yuan clan instantly drew their swords in a threatening way and demanded he explain what was going on. Hans explodes with rage at the Wang clan's boldness in turning their swords against their own master, but he steps in front of Jinan to shield him, while the boy remains calm and simply points out how disrespectful it is for the Wang clan to raise their weapons against their employer. He growls darkly, warning them that they're clearly asking for trouble. Then he suddenly shifts the topic to paying Wang Hu as a way to make up for his mistake, leaving Hu completely baffled. Jin admits he's ruined Wang Hu's perfect retirement plan, and then tells the story of what Wang Hu was really up to. First, he would take out Jinan by using Gong. As he watched Jin's two brothers fight, the trouble they caused in turn made their father sick, which turned out to be a big help for Wang. In the end, Yang just had to twist one brother's arm and use him like a puppet to take full control of the Yunhe merchant group. Just then, Wang bursts into laughter, mocking Jinan for spinning tales, while he coldly reveals that Wang's plan has already crumbled since he personally took out the assassin, Gongan. Hu's eyes go wide when he learns this surprising fact. He can't believe what he just heard, and our boy adds that he killed the poor assassin with one strike, giving him an easy death. Then he casually tells Wang Hu that if he wants to truly control the merchant group, he needs to stop messing around and make a proper plan, plus he's going to make Wang Hu pay for every bit of damage he caused. Now Wang has had enough of Jin's words. With a roar of pure rage, he throws his fist forward, ready to end his life. Before he can throw a punch, Jinan stops it dead by hitting his fist with his own hand. As soon as their fists meet, Wang Hu feels a shocking rush of lightning and knows for sure that Jinan has finally become a real martial artist. Everyone around them is stunned to see just how powerful our guy really is. Jinan shouts that Wang is attacking someone who has just been healed. Then he says he'll let it go since they'll settle it with an official duel. The crowd hushed as the announcer declared the official duel had finally begun. Who wonders if that will be enough? He gives a smug grin and shouts that they'll keep fighting until one of them is dead. After hearing this, Oang calmly remarks that Jinan must have been trained by a good sect, judging by how efficient and skilled he is in martial arts. With a sword raised, he boasts that he will show Jinan the gap in their experience, but Jinan quickly sidesteps the strike and ignores the insult. As he ducks, he drives his fist into Wang's gut and shouts that he has 100 years more experience than Wang Hu. As Hu coughs blood in shock at Jinan's amazing power, Jinan activates his super-fast martial art to show Wang the real difference, striking with lightning speed until Wang blocks the blow with the sword. The two keep fighting, with Wang swinging his blade and Jinan blocking every hit with his bare hands. But our boy's every punch gets stopped by Wang's sword. As Wang clashes with Jinong, he is utterly baffled because the opponent fights in a way that looks nothing like a rookie would. His fighting skills are as sharp as a veteran warrior's, yet Wang is still driven to bring Jinan down. Noticing his posture, his team cheers, convinced their leader is finally ready to call it a day. With that, Oang swings his sword to unleash his three-form art. Jin quickly ducks his head to dodge the blow and launches back with a lightning-fast counterattack. He darts around Wang so quickly that she can't even tell he's moved. In the next instant, Wang takes a brutal hit to the jaw so hard that it cracks from the main house, leaving the servants whispering in confusion while his father beamed with pride, claiming his eldest has finally mastered the martial arts. As Wang falls, his men instantly scramble to his side. Watching their captain fall, they erupt in rage, with one man glaring at Jinan until he shuts him up with a terrifying threat. A lower-ranking officer also says the fight was fair and had no cheating. But right before he goes, he warns that if Jinan acts this way, the Yuan clan will hit back at the Yunna merchants with the same force, and there's no escape from that. Jinan doesn't mind small grudges because he has dealt with them before. He will always pay back whatever he gets, whether it's a grudge or a kindness. Plus, he owns up to the mess, which makes Heian shout out in protest. Jinan stares hard at everyone and says that even though he claimed the Yunna merchant group was his, it actually belongs to his dad, the squad that welcomed him that morning, and every worker there. So, he won't let anyone mess with his business. With that, he tells them to leave, saying he's letting them go anyway. Everyone cheered for his speech, even though the Wang clan left with heavy hearts, hoping he would do well when they meet again. As they move along, one worker is about to cheer, but another quickly silences him, reminding him that Jinan had already won the official duel. Another guard says they can't celebrate because they're supposed to be working, but they just stood there watching the whole thing happen. Jinan doesn't flinch at the chaos, turns to Huan, and asks him to bring an elixir because he has taken full charge and deserves it. Huan chuckles, promising his brother he'll bring the very best potion before disappearing to get busy. Not only is he buying magic potions, but he also needs to hire new guards, so Jinan says he knows just the right people for the job, while in a quiet room somewhere, someone hears the news about what Jinan has been up to. His team checked and said the news was really true. Actually, our boy had already figured all of this out the moment he stepped into the Yunna merchant group a few days ago. He's also been looking closely at how the team works together. On his first day, he stops in his tracks on the way somewhere and asks Han if he's eaten. Han is completely taken aback by the kind question and quickly says no, explaining he hasn't eaten since dawn because of work. Jinan then looks down to see a few Yuan clan members wasting time and talking nonsense. In that moment, he sees the truth. The loyal Unha merchants work so hard they forget to eat, while the Wang clan members take easy money and slack off without doing any real work. Han speaks to him again, but he ignores him and thinks that firing the Wang members would leave the group without protection since he'd need new people to take their place. After thinking it over, he knows just where to find the perfect replacements for those idle employees. To get what he needed, he walks into a dark, smoky gambling hall where only the worst criminals are welcome. The moment he steps inside, everyone stares at him, pointing fingers and calling him a pushover while acting surprised to finally see him after so long. Some think he's been dead for years and expect him to come back just to lose his money at the gambling hall. So when he walks in, the guard cheers with the idea that a fortune is about to be spent, only to be sharply rebuked by Jinan for even thinking about touching him. Inside, the man called the Poisonous Fox looks at his old friend and says his better health must come from a long time of resting. His friends Yuk Jimbo and Yukong Ho greet him, but Mong-O smirks and tells them to ask after Jinan's health since he's been sick for so long. So the Juke brothers apologize while Mong-O mockingly claimed Jinan as his friend, causing Jinan to scoff at that fake friendship. On the outside, they seem like best friends, but Mong-O has always used this fake friendship to bully him and trick him into handing over his money. With a serious look, he wonders if the new generation has twisted the meaning of friendship, while an oblivious Mong-ho pushes him to gamble because it's been far too long. He is itching to fleece him for a hefty sum, confident that no one else would be foolish enough to fall into his trap, so he is feigning friendliness and insisting he'll treat him in honor of his return. But when he stays silent, she gets annoyed and pushes him to finally speak. Jinan calmly says he's thinking, but when his vulture of a friend pushes for an answer, Jinan stays silent for a moment, weighing whether he should kill Manhua or not. In his eyes, Manhua is just a worthless scumbag he has no use for, while the real value lies with the Yuk, whose hidden talents are wasted under such a foolish leader. With that decision settling in his mind, Jinan rises and calmly asks Mungo to hand over the vault key. Manhua blinks in surprise and asks why Jinan suddenly needs money. Jinan replied calmly, promising that this money was just a one-time withdrawal. But he adds, the interest Mungo owes him for the thousands of niang he was forced to invest in this gambling den, plus medical compensation for the times Mungo had him beaten, brings the total to around 100,000. That should be enough. Manhua bursts into laughter, mocking him and asking if he learned his math during his time away. With a sneer of pride, he shows off not just the money Jinan wants, but also the vault's stash of gold, silver, and jewels. Yet he insists that Jinan is a fool to think he'll get anything of it. He might lend a hand if you're truly desperate, but forget about the vault key. Mongo's anger boils over as he remembers how our boy faked sickness just to demand the vault key while ignoring him. So he coldly tells Jinan to wake up and realize who he's talking to, then steps right up to his face to ask if he's daring him to kill him, but gets no answer at all. After running out of words, Young Ho finally snaps and orders his minions to beat Jinan to a pulp. One of the Yuk brothers lunges from behind to smash his head onto the table, but Jinan's face darkens, realizing this is his own act of kindness. In the next instant, he launches one Yuk brother right into the wall. The other rushes forward, but Jinan sidesteps, using the table for leverage, and in a flash, shatters his ankle. That brother takes a sudden tumble. Jinan whips around in shock to find the Yuk brothers standing up with broken bones, but no fear in their eyes. Seeing that makes him thrilled and ready to chase them down. Both brothers rush at him together, but Jinan vanishes from sight in a flash and is suddenly behind them, moving so fast it looks like magic. He grabs both of their heads and smashes them together, reminding them with a chill in his voice that he won't give them another warning. Now that the rowdy brothers are gone, the only one left is the cowardly Mong-ho, who has been hiding behind them this whole time. Jinan turns to his old friend, a dark grin twisting his face. Manhua tries to hide his fear and speak kindly to Jinan about martial arts while secretly holding a knife behind his back, and when Jinan steps closer, Manhua panics, shows the weapon, and reminds himself that this is just Jinan, who he has no reason to fear. With determination, he rushes forward, hoping to end the fight with just one strike. He gives a smug grin from behind his table, foolishly believing it will hide him. Jinan sweeps the table out of the way, and in the blink of an eye, his single punch blows it into a million pieces. All that's left is a dumbfounded, silent Mong-ho whose head he grabs firmly. Then he smiles and calmly admits that Counter-Strike takes the win this time. In the next instant, Jinan screams in agony as lightning surges through him, while a guard outside mutters that someone is going to die today. After the terrifying explosion, Mong-ho crumples to the floor, soaking wet from sweat, while Jinan just shakes it off and tells him to calm down. Struggling to lift his head, he stares with burning shame as a dark thought takes hold, wondering what Jinan has been doing while he was away. No matter if Jinan spent all that time just to get revenge, he tries to defend himself by thinking he hasn't been that bad to him, but remembering his past behavior makes the conclusion unavoidable. This is payback, so with a nervous smile he tells our boy to demand anything except the vault key. That stops Jinan in his tracks, exactly as he hoped, but Mong-ho quickly reminds him that despite Jinan's bad behavior, they've been childhood friends, so he reluctantly goes along, which makes Mongo's face light up and leads him to immediately hug the very irritated Jinan and promise no more beatings or harassment, though Jinan doesn't believe him and shoves him away while grimacing and saying his sweet words make him sick. Even though he's annoyed, he keeps talking and insists they aren't just friends while calling him brother, then immediately turns to his minions to greet their new big brother, who they obey without a second thought while looking completely clueless, while Manjo smirks inside, knowing Jinan used to follow him like a puppy and plans to grab his guards and run the moment he gets the chance. He's sure he'll handle whatever comes next. On the other side, Jinan speaks straight to the twins, telling them that once he calls someone his brother, that bond stays forever. The Yuk brothers look to Myango for a nod. Then my Young-ho shouts for them to swear their oath, proclaiming that they are now sworn brothers. The twins instantly promise to follow Jinan like his little brothers. Mungo feels great about his progress until he freezes in fear when Jinan darkly tells the Yuk brothers to step aside and says he and someone else are going to decide who the real big brother is. Even though Mungo tried to stop them, the twins walked out of the room, now completely thrown off balance. He has no idea what his true motive is. Our guy calmly told him that since he made money by tricking the twins, that wasn't the right way to do things. Now it's Jinan's turn to step up and take care of them, knowing they are worth far more than any money. Manhua screams in anger, shouting that Jinan not only beat him, but also tried to drag the brothers away. He growls that killing him right now would be the better choice. Despite how rude the comment was, Jinan agrees with it by kicking me in the jaw, then coldly praises the attacker while beating him up until he realizes that Jinan isn't afraid to kill anyone. After a long wait, Manhua finally whispers that he will give him what he wants, but Jinan just laughs and tells him to say it out loud. So Manhua, completely defeated, agrees to hand over the key. Jinan smirks, pushing him to beg for his life, while Mungo just scoffs and mocks him for being disrespectful. He learns his lesson fast when Jinan tosses him aside, making him wonder if he's actually gone crazy. The moment the Yuk brothers spot him, they instantly turn around to ask if he's lost his way. With no other option, Manhua admits defeat and says from now on they will serve Jinan. The shame is so crushing that my heart feels like it's about to break into sobs. For a second, he acts like a normal person and lets the brothers go so they can live better with the Yuna merchant group. But when the brothers look at each other and agree to serve Jinan, Manhua's anger flares up again because he thinks they are ungrateful. Once everything is settled, Manhua storms out, grumbling and complaining that he can never trust anyone with black hair. The moment his Juke twins disappear, the people around him turn on him to attack. When Mungo sees the hostile faces around him, his arrogance flares like a poisonous fox, and he shouts loudly to prove it while daring them to come at him. As the men grab the bait, their weapons raised and fury boiling over with curses at his luck, Manhua readies himself for the worst, but just before anyone can reach him, Jinan steps in to defend him. Jinan says that while the vultures were too afraid to touch my young Ho when he was strong, they are now ready to eat him because he is weak, and he tells them they can only come when he is strong enough to fight back. He tells the Yuk brothers to gather up all the valuable treasures. As they get to work on his orders, Manhua keeps shouting insults at everyone and everything, even Jinan. When they reach his house, the Yuk stops to thank him for saving their old master. The sudden wave of thanks stops him in his tracks. As he gazes at the twins, he remembers the rumors that they were either sold to Mungo as slaves or followed him out of fear. Still, as Jinan smiles softly at their real worry for Manhua, he realizes that knowing people is way harder than it looks, while someone hidden behind a pillar watches closely to make sure Jinan is really there. Now things fall back into rhythm, but John is still grumbling because he wants a quiet day before his big brother returns. He remembers how money and jewels suddenly appeared from the gambling den with the Yuka brothers, and the thought makes him burn with anger. The very next instant, he spots a cart rolling and loaded with fresh supplies. Huan looked over the cargo with care, told his servants to handle the goods gently, left the cart right there, and explained that these items were truly precious. Seeing this, Jaeon can't help but wonder what's hiding in that cart. His eyes sparkle when he spots a 100-year-old tuber fleece flower, a rare bloom that folks have been lining up since dawn just to catch a glimpse of, and he figures it must have arrived because he ordered it. Just then, their dad steps outside. Huan rushes over to tell him it's too early to be out like this, but John just cares about who his father brought so much healing potion for. He remembers that Jinan only needed one, so he hoped he might get one too, but his face turns pale when he learns they are all for Jinan. Their father warns that after losing so much money to the Wang clan and the Little Deity sect, they can't afford to risk everything on just one elixir. After thinking it over, he sends letters to the leaders of their local offices and some famous names in the elixir world, asking for the best supplies. They promise to help each other because their businesses are tied together and hurt when one fails, and Han even backs Jinan's choice to train as a martial artist, believing he will become great. Min thanked him for his help, and even though his youngest son looked downcast, he declared that he had finally found the perfect way to spend all the money he earned. Furious at what he hears, Jeon steps in front of his father and demands his own elixir, only for his father to pause and ask if he truly needs one. John's anger burns hotter and hotter as he hears nothing but praise for his older brother's name. He is convinced he is being treated unfairly and can't see why Jinan keeps getting all the special treatment. His question gets answered not with words, but by his boy zipping past at lightning speed, slamming John to the ground with the sheer force of his motion as he drags a huge boulder across his back. John sees his brother sweaty determined face and knows that the eldest, who already stands tall with natural confidence, is finally giving it his all to make it happen. He leans back against the dirt with a long sigh, then looks over at his sword with a thoughtful expression. After a while, fueled by his brother's tough training, Jaeon starts swinging his sword at a practice dummy. He remembers the special trick Jainon used against Wang Hu in their official fight. After training, he sighs in frustration, muttering curses as he realizes he still can't quite match Jainon's amazing skill. Just then, Jainon shows up out of nowhere, which scares the little brother, so John asks nervously about the walk and Jainon says he's done with it. After seeing what his youngest brother has been up to, he hands him his sword, tells him to practice the move Wang Hu used on him, and praises his brother's amazing skills. Jaeon felt his face burn with shame as he caught his brother watching him train. John grabs the sword, rises to his feet, and charges at the dummy with pure determination. Feeling smug about his plan, his confidence is instantly crushed when Jainon calls it sloppy, so Jean, annoyed at his brother's sharp tongue, snaps back. But in the next instant, Jainon's fist flies toward him, and Jaeon barely manages to stop it with his sword. Jainon tells how he shattered Wang Hu's guard, closed in until there was no escape, and left him with no choice but to defend himself. He shouts all these words while still kicking at his younger brother. Jaeon tries to calm him down and asks them to talk it out, but Jainon, eager to train his brother, just ignores him. With nowhere else to turn, John grabs his sword, follows Jainon, and is shocked to see the opponent simply disappear from his path. A split second later, Jainon jumps him from behind and says that regular folks only show their real power when they're backed into a corner. With a sudden stop just before his fist could land on John, Jaeon scrambles backward to the ground, terrified that he's about to be killed. Jin notes that stabbing is harder to land than slashing, and reveals that Yuan who tried to kill him in one strike using a three-form sword style. Jainon had to move with extreme care, carefully timing his steps to beat it, or he'd have been done for before the day was over. As Jainon lifts his sword to strike his brother, he suddenly remembers fighting Wang Hu. If Wang had met a version of the Fist King with his full past life power, he'd be gone before he could draw his sword. But since the Fist King's current strength is only a quarter of what he once was, there's no reason to celebrate such a narrow victory. His mind wanders to the demonic killers who are far stronger than him. This fire drives him to become stronger than he ever was before. His reflection breaks as a maid's voice tells him a visitor is here, so Jainon leaves to greet them but pokes his younger brother on the forehead one more time before going. In a different spot, a group of men are mocking the silly rumor that a womanizer like Jainon could possibly know martial arts. Gung, who refuses to believe the tale, explains that last night he wandered into the gambling den while drunk. There he saw Jainon, standing with the Yuk brothers, moving things out of the den. He knew him instantly, but before he could even throw up again, the guy was gone. Juju Ruong and Simaguk decided to visit the spot themselves to put the rumor to the test. As they push open his door, they see him inside with the Yuk brothers. They slam the door shut and ask the maid if the strong man was really their young master Jainon, or just a merchant pretending to be him. And she confirmed that it truly was him. The men stare in shock, looking like they might faint as they try to believe that the powerful Jainon they just witnessed is actually the same carefree playboy from the four heavenly kings they thought they knew. Suddenly, Jainon flings the door open and startles them. He quietly tells his maid to feed the twins a huge meal since they eat so much. Once they're gone, he looks at his old crew, who are shaking with fear, and asks why they're still there. Too scared to speak, they just pray to stay safe, while Simaguk, Jujurong, Guang, and their friend Jainon sit together as the Four Heavenly Kings, a group known for loving women and wine, finally enjoying a quiet meal. As Jainon looks at them, he thinks of Meng Ho, who also calls himself his friend, though these two are nothing like that. They're just troublemaking buddies whose whole world revolves around women and wine. Jurong breaks the quiet by asking how Jainon is doing. While Guang flexes his biceps in shock at Jainon's training, Sima watches quietly and realizes that such a change must be more than just hard work. Jainon has finally turned into a real fighter. When they question where he learned his fighting skills, since it's impossible to teach yourself, Jainon just shrugs and says he was simply lucky. Sima says it must be like the legends they only heard about in Jianghu, while Jurong notes that he almost didn't recognize him at all. Suddenly, Jainon declares that their friend Jainon is dead, and their faces instantly change. Still full of hope, Jiang leans in to ask what they should do next. Jin brushes off the details, saying he owes a debt and is getting the Yuna merchant group ready to pay it back. He stopped wandering around lost and decided to get stronger instead. Guang and Jurong stared in shock, whispering about the sudden shift, while Sima just looked grave. He remembered the day Jainon pretended to leave for his health, But Jinan knew it was really an exile, and he felt crushed knowing his father was so disappointed he had to send him away. Sima tried to lift his spirits, comforting him and urging him to use this time wisely to study and become a better person. Back then, Jinan just laughed and agreed to switch things up before Sima could even say goodbye. Thinking back to what happened, Sima truly wishes his friend well for becoming a better person. For a split second, they all stop and nod along with Sima, remembering how Jinan walked out while the others stayed behind because of their usual hangovers. Watching them argue, he lets out a soft sigh, understanding that these alcohol-loving goofballs are Jinian's true friends. As he pours a drink for each of his friends, he asks what they are planning to do now that things have changed for him. Nervously, they all admit they're not the kind to change. Yet as they celebrate, they're relieved that Jinan finally stepped out of their shadow to face the world. After a long night of drinks and laughs, his friends all head out, waving goodbye and telling him to call anytime he needs them. On the way back, they talk once more about how Jinan has changed, and Sima suggests they head home. Zharong teases him about getting married, but Sima just tells him to go home and study. Their playful talk goes on until they finally head to Sweet Scent House to get even more drunk. At the same Sweet Scent House, the little deity sect's leader, Yongjiang, is raging with anger after learning about Wang Hus. The Wang clan told the sect leader that Jinan fought with nothing but his bare fist during his duel with their captain. When he hears this, the sect leader's face darkens with anger, reminding the Wang clan that they cannot seek revenge for a fair duel even as they beg for blood. A clan member of Wang's group protests, insisting that since the sect leader and Wang who were once friends, he must honor that bond. Yongjiang's anger boils over as he shouts that a dead man owes him nothing. He then tells them to carry the body away and say sorry to his escort for the trouble. Afterward, Yongjiang's mind drifts to a new trouble. The Yuna merchants have refused to pay their tax. Without Wang to use as their ace in the hole, they have lost all their power to bargain. His subordinate points out that refusing to pay means they've stopped recognizing the sect's authority, and Yamjiang agrees. Then the subordinate asks if they plan to kill them, but their leader, Shakes, replies that they aren't just some shady underworld goons. The subordinate pushes forward, asking if he plans to just let them walk away. Before Yongjiang can even answer, he sees three of Jinan's friends still talking about how their friend has changed. He spots them, brushes right past, and deliberately calls out the Yuna merchant group's name. He whispered just loud enough for them to hear that Jinan's father and his heir must be rich, and Sima heard him right away and took the bait. Afterward, Sima hurriedly tells his friends everything, but Jinan just yawns at the news even though Sima warns him that an attack could happen any moment now since they no longer have a security squad after getting rid of Wang who, while Jinan is already thinking about the little deity sect that Mok had already told him about. After a short pause, he asks Sima where the sect members are, and she tells him they're at their base. Jinan calls him inside and gives him a robe to wear. His loyal friend agrees while asking once more where they are, and Jinan replies that they're at the guard squad's warehouse. When Sima learns that Jinan is heading straight for the little deity sect's base, he panics and reminds him they're just the two of them. Though the whole sect is going to be there, they don't even have a real plan. As Jinan pulls out his weapon and tells his friend this is the plan, he presses the knife lightly against Sima's throat and orders him to lead the way. His poor friend has no choice but to lead him past the dozens of guards watching the main gate of the little deity sect. Finally, at the entrance, Sima tells him he can't help in a fight. He calmly tells his friend to go away since he's going inside all by himself. Sima feels a bit let down by his decision and warns him not to rush into a place filled with hundreds of guards. But Jinan just flings the door open and says he's going to do exactly what he used to do in his past life. For our boy Dan Wang, the rule is simple: never back down from a fight. Not while he's just a lonely orphan trying to survive in the tough world of Jianghu. Not even when he ruled as the Fist King did anyone ever forget. Even now, he won't give up the fight, especially when it comes to his love for battle. Just as the door swings open and all eyes turn to him, the room freezes. But our guy walks right in with zero fear and demands to see their leader. One guard, seething with rage at the intruder's boldness, lunges forward to strike him down. In a flash, Jinan snatches the man by the throat and slams him to the ground. The guards tell him he's trespassing in their home, but before things turn violent, the sect leader bursts in, pulled by the noise, and demands to know who he is. Jinan calmly says he is an assassin, which makes the sect leader laugh because he has never seen anyone walk into a room so boldly. Then his gaze lands on Jinan's bruised fist, and a memory of his talk with a Wang clan member comes rushing back. Suddenly, he knows exactly who is standing there, Jinan, and with a flirtatious grin, he tells Jinan he might just be him. The sect leader's face lights up at the unexpected intruder, and he seizes the chance to turn the tables to his advantage. Without thinking twice, he tells his guards to grab him right, then while his mind flashes back to a past life where he took on many enemies all at once. As the fight starts, he knows his body isn't as strong as it used to be, but that won't stop him from having fun in the battle. With every hit, he sends guards crashing down left and right, punching them flat on the floor in a blur of speed. Some guards step back in fear, stunned by the sheer power he shows while taking on many attackers with nothing but his fists. Suddenly, he stops dead as an arrow cuts across his cheek from behind. He turned with a sneer and jokingly accused the sect leader of showing off his flashy weapon. The sect leader sighs, admitting the sword is pricey and a rare treasure. Yet he decides to make an exception for a worthy challenger like you. On the sect master's command, guards pinned Jinan to the ground, while dozens of archers took positions on the roof, their weapons aimed at him. Our boy thinks with bitter irony, so the sect master won't even get the honor of falling right next to his own men. Then, out of nowhere, he hears Sima's voice calling his name as a knife flies right at him. Jinan catches the dart in midair and, with one fluid move, bounces all the flying arrows back, a trick so hard it makes the guards hold slip right off. The sect leader looks on in shock at what he just saw, while our hero gives his loyal friend a thumbs up before turning back to the fight. He throws the blade at the sect leader, and it slices just along the man's neck. In a dark voice, he says that the sect leader is the only one he will ever cut with a blade instead of punching. Now with no hope left, the sect leader tells his followers to end his life. Before he can even move, our boy is already on top of him with fists ready, while the cowardly leader instantly grabs his own lover to use as a human shield. With a quick, careful punch to the man, Jinan grabs the woman and pulls her safety. He tells her to go, then looks back at the sect leader who is now shaking like a frightened creature trapped in a corner. Just like every other opponent Jinan has faced, this guy realizes he can't be the heir of the Una merchant group. Only a true master of the fight could move like that. To keep him alive, the sect leader gives Jinan a huge pile of money. Before the man could even finish speaking, our boy punched him hard, sending him crashing to the floor. Jinan declares with cold finality that he won't take money from someone who puts it above human life. After crushing him completely, he ended the man's life, his face twisted in disgust as he saw the blood of such a scumbag. Once everything was sorted out, Jinan walked away with his friend and the sect leader's lover. Sima steps up to walk the woman along, and Jinan says yes to the plan. As they walked their separate ways, the woman spotted Sima right away. Feeling flustered, he takes off his mask to reveal his face while she admits she has seen him often at the sweet scent house, thanks him from the bottom of her heart, and promises to buy him the finest wine next time he comes by. He shakes his head at the proposal and vows never to go to patrol again. She whispers softly about how he has changed. He looks at his friend and calmly tells him he's ready to welcome the change. Inspired by Jinan's own change, Jinan is already thinking about breakfast. After freshening up at his chamber, Jinan sits down for breakfast with the Juke brothers and tells them to eat as much as they want. So happy with his kindness, they ask to eat 7 times a day, and he agrees right away without even thinking twice. They see the cut on his face and ask what happened last night. The question drags him back to the ambush, a terrifying moment that truly shook him to his core. This didn't scare him back in his old life, but now he knows he has to push past his usual limits to prepare for revenge against the demons and grow the Una merchant group. Suddenly, he learns that a package has arrived for him. As he opens the box, he finds a letter from Guang that teases him for getting better, but reminds him he barely drank anything last night. Truthfully, Guang had forgotten to deliver something his dad asked for, so he's bringing it over now. He closes the letter by saying goodbye to Jinan and telling him to get strong for the sake of their row group. When Jinan lifts the lid, he discovers several tuber fleece flower roots that are hundreds of years old. He is shocked to find these herbs are nearly 500 years old, which means they can help him finally unlock the 5th phase of his lightning art. Then he reaches into another pouch and pulls out a box. Inside, he discovers a letter from the Taiho merchant group addressed to his father, sent as a sign of friendship. He figured his dad must have used his powerful friends to ask the Taiho merchant group, the richest traders in the Central Plains, to carry these valuable items. As he lifts the lid, his eyes go wide with wonder at the azurite essence inside, a treasure that makes martial artists dream. It ranks just behind the legendary moonflower berry and ancient snow gins, and this rare elixir is so precious that martial artists would fight to the death for it. As he breathed in the scent, he knew it was real azurite because he had tasted a few drops in a past life, but he still couldn't figure out how his father had managed to get his hands on it. Then, without a second thought, he tosses the tuber fleece flower roots to his Yuck brothers, telling them to guard his room while he circulates his energy and orders them to eat the roots the moment he steps out. One of the Yuck brothers stares at the item in his hand with curiosity, while Jinan explains that it will make them stronger, but warns them not to lose it because it is so valuable. One of them looks shocked at this news, then casually admits his dad brought plenty of similar magic drinks just for him, and Jinan sighs, finally realizing it all comes down to money. After finishing the Rudy, Jinan sits cross-legged in his room, meditating and charging up with energy for the next 2 hours. The bitter taste reminds him that martial arts, like life, hurts first but rewards you later. Soon he feels the heat from the elixir rushing through him, and he's glad he's trained his new body well enough to handle it. But then suddenly, a sharp burning pain explodes through every part of him. He tries to hold it back, but keeps swelling until it feels impossible to bear. He grits his teeth and throws himself at the problem with all his might to finally beat it. After a few seconds of holding his breath, he finally lets out a sigh of relief as the pain vanishes and his core starts to cool. Then he unleashes his lightning power, a triumphant grin spreading across his face as he realizes he has finally reached the 5th level. Looking down at himself, he realizes his body smells of alcohol because it once belonged to an alcoholic. With a smile, he waves goodbye to the old Jinan. It's finally time to try collecting the azurite essence, but don't expect it to be an easy task. Most bodies crumble like sand in a furnace, yet he knows he must stand firm. In the next moment, he feels the spirit energy around him, like it is testing him. At first, he tries to hold back his hunger for power, but then he changes his mind and pushes against the energy with all his might, determined to grow stronger than ever before. For 7 days, he stayed locked in his room, pouring all his energy into his work. His nerdy younger brother starts to get really worried about him. Yak's brother blocks his way, warning that their master has strictly forbidden anyone from entering that room. Before the nerdy brother can speak, a huge boom blasts from his room, leaving him standing like a ghost with purple lightning burning in his eyes, while the Yuck brothers stare in shock until Huan, the smartest one, sniffs the air and knows it's the dangerous energy deviation. They sprint toward him just as he hits the ground. The Yuck brothers frantically shake him, trying hard to bring him back to life. Huan, trembling with fear, steps up to his oldest brother, who lifts his head to stare back with the same fierce look. Jinan stands up and stares at his brother. His face looks so angry and sad that he seems like a ghost coming back to take revenge. He dashes ahead, telling his baffled middle brother to stay back and not follow, then leaps from building to building at full speed, racing away from both his home and his entire street. The raw power of the azurite he eats surges through him, making him almost impossible to control. Jinan's body breaks under the essence's power, making him uncontrollable for the Fist King, so he flees the towns to keep the people safe from himself. After some time, he walks until he is far away and comes to a stop in a deserted place. The power is still wild and can't be stopped. With the memory of his past stabbings still fresh, he chooses to unleash the power sleeping inside his own body. He lets loose a massive burst of energy that shoots up from the ground and can be seen for miles away. Rain pours down on him as he stands there, feeling full of strength. He checked how well his white lightning 10-step technique was going. He grins, knowing that this energy has pushed him into the 8th phase. When he returns to town, his clothes are ripped apart by the power he unleashed. Seeing the fine clothes on the people around him, he buys some for himself, but when he asks how much they cost, the shopkeeper politely refuses to accept any money. Seeing that he was the hero who had beaten up the Wang clan and the little deity sect while scaring off all the other thugs. He points to his kids, explaining that they will follow him here, making this act a thank you from his heart. The children also handed him an umbrella, and with a smile, he finally accepted their kind thanks. Standing outside, he watches the calm faces of the crowd and finally sees that the shopkeeper was right. He never truly grasped how much his fight meant to everyone. But with the shopkeeper's words and the people's smiles fresh in his mind, he felt a strange sensation he truly liked. Suddenly, loud shouting cuts through the air, and he sees people chasing poor Mong-O, but his chameleon friend just smiles at him. Eyeing his foe, he makes a dry joke about his busy life. While back at Emperor Moyong-chan's palace, the rulers gather for a meeting. The Do clan leader, De Meong, took the lead in the talk and praised Moyongbin for his amazing job of bringing all the emperor assembly group leaders together. Moyongbin waves away the thanks and steps up to Wang Xiong, the head of the Wang clan, to talk about how our hero killed Wang Hu. The Wang patriarch feels humiliated, especially when Moyongbin recalls that Wang Hu was a skilled fighter who frequently clashed with the Yinha merchant group. Now the head of the emperor assembly and the leader of the Nam Gong clan laughed at him, mocking the fact that a once great warrior like who had been defeated by a simple merchant. The leader of the Wang clan tries to explain that Wang, who was already kicked out of the family. But he speaks with a dark promise that he will teach Jinan a hard lesson, so he knows his clan is the true master. On the other side, our guy and his self-centered friend are being hunted by the Crimson Reaper Alliance, who demand that he hand over the name of the person who told Jinan about these wannabe kings in the downtown district. Manhua explains that strangers stole the books he needed for his auction, and then he asks his old friend if his hands are okay. Manhua holds up his bruised hands and jokes that they can still hear him. Seeing this, he turns to the underworld goons and tells them to bring Manhua back once his hands are fully healed. As everyone starts laughing at how crazy our dude looks, he just talks to them like it's no big deal. But when Jinan stays silent to their teasing, they quickly realize he isn't normal and carries a heavy, scary presence. Even though they're mad and plan to beat him, one punk steps up to ask Jinan if he really knows who they are, only to get punched so hard by Jinan that he crashes into the wall before he can even finish his threat. Everyone freezes in shock until Jinan, completely unfazed, casually tells them to scram because he's hungry and might eat them if they don't leave, adding that he or my hoe will find them later to fight. Finally, the Crimson Reaper gang understands and waves a goodbye for now. Now, she has the nerve to ask him to buy her noodles. He even admits that when Jinan beat him last time, he nearly died from hunger and spends time talking about how vital food is for his recovery, until Jinan tells him to shut up and just ask without overcomplicating it. So they head to Jinpong's place to eat noodles. Young-ho is pleased to have a full meal until he spots his friend suddenly eating like they've gone days without food. So he chats about how things naturally change, and then orders 4 extra bowls for his friend. The talk turns to the Yuck twins, as our hero tells Mongho that they're doing well and usually train at his place. Mongho complains that his friends eat so much they drain his money. Jinan casually points out that he is rich enough, while his old friends annoyingly reply that he spends his money on looting too. The talk shifts when Mingo gets curious about where Jinan learned his fighting moves, so his friend pushes him to explain why. Mungo casually says he plans to take down the Crimson Reaper gang and that learning martial arts will be a big help. He also tells us about the gang boss who commands hundreds of followers. No matter where they clash, there are always so many of them, even though they run away when they need to. Right then, Jinan says he'll train him himself, and Mungo jumps at the chance. He promises to follow every order, knowing that his reputation as the poisonous fox means he must take everything seriously. In the next moment, he catches his greedy ex-friend off guard by ordering him to bow down. Mongho felt so embarrassed he nearly turned red, yet he still bowed his head. Then he stands up, grumbling that Jinan should have taught him better, before opening his umbrella to show how to twist his wrist for a sword strike. His old friend fumed with anger, glaring as the other man bowed and complained about dumping trash on his merchant group's gate. But in the next moment, he gets hit by that same umbrella as Jinan shows him how to hold it in one hand and swing it just like the demo. He has to borrow this umbrella hundreds of thousands of times before he can finally return it to him. Maiho pauses, not sure if he can pull off this crazy trick over and over again. Jinan mocks him about his title and demands he quit learning martial arts if he thinks he can't make it. Even after being warned, Mungo still can't bring himself to move. Our guy decides to give his old friend a tough talk. He yanks at his collar and warns him that murder isn't a game. So he'll practice swinging the umbrella to build up his arm for the day. He has to swing a wooden sword at dozens of Crimson Reaper gang members. So far, he's only been running for his life. Then he flatly says that someone as wretched as him might as well just give up. He trembles with fear and says he isn't ready to die. Jinan calmly tells him to decide if he wants to be a true poisonous fox or just a cowardly rat. For a split second, his old friend says nothing. So he finally asks for the umbrella and walks away with it. After paying for his friend's departure, Jinan ponders what he just heard and worries if the boy will stick with the training. His mind shifts to the Crimson Reaper Alliance, and he vows to hunt them down, while at the same time, the leader of the Passion House rages in fury, beating his trembling subordinates at his base. He insists on finding out why they let Mongho go. After hearing it all, the gang leader stands silent, struggling to believe that a merchant son would dare stand up against his rough underworld crew. One of his subordinates tried to say that Jinan is more than just a martial arts master, with some even calling him the strongest in the Yanghua region, but he stopped mid-sentence when he saw his master's serious face. The leader snaps everyone back to the group hunting for the 2 targets and flatly says he wants both Mongho and Jinan dead. Meanwhile, our young hero is also figuring out who leads the Crimson Reaper gang. One of the Yuk brothers warns him that the gang is notorious for destroying its enemies, having already killed many powerful leaders from sects like the Napio and Horn. After doing this, he swallows up the smaller groups in the Yukyuan area, making his own team much bigger. So, every shop and business in the Yukon area has to hand over tribute money to the Crimson Reaper Alliance, no matter what they sell, and that's exactly why they are hunting Mongho. Jinan tells the Yuck Boys that the gang has taken over his friend's auction house, and the Yuck Boys agree that the gang would definitely do something like that. Once he understands everything, our hero knows he must track down the gang, or else his trade partners will get caught up in the chaos once they find out who he really is. While the madam was giving orders to her team in the Yukon shopping district, a sudden loud scream made them all rush over to the girl. One of the escorts tells her that the girl is with the leader of the Crimson Reaper Alliance, but then they start to worry about another girl who is still inside with him. After seeing how sick the girl was, the madam ordered her helper to take her to her room to rest while she went to check on the new guest, and she told everyone not to bother the leader of the Crimson Reaper. Jianhua walks up to her new guest, who turns out to be our boy. She tries to sweet-talk him, but he cuts straight to the point and asks about the Crimson Reaper's leader. Jianhua asks if he has a time set for this. He even asks if he'll find the leader upstairs, and though Jianhua hesitates, wondering who the man really is, he admits that the leader is indeed up there. As he climbs the stairs, he tells her to get everyone else out because he's going to meet the leader. She realizes the other girl is still inside, so she rushes to warn him that the leader is incredibly strong. But our boy doesn't even blink as he keeps moving forward. The leader ignores the guard's warning that he is in a restricted zone, and when one tries to stop him, the leader just tosses the guard aside as if he weighs nothing. The other guards of the Crimson Reaper Alliance step up ready to fight, asking if our clueless boy even knows who they are. He quietly asks again where their leader is. Everyone around him is part of the Crimson Reaper Alliance, and dozens of men rush toward him ready to kill. But Jinan just calmly says he's here to kill them first. Suddenly, a man swings a sword at him, but he grabs the attacker by the head and hurls him aside. Another thug lunges at him, but he slips the attack and kills the attacker with the very weapon used against him. He yanks open a door, but it isn't the right room. He asks himself if he has to smash every door just to track down the leader. He doesn't pause to think and crashes through every door on this floor, yet the leader isn't hiding in any of them. He decides he must look for him on the floor above. After a while, the leader sits in his room on the 5th floor when the door suddenly smashes open. His subordinate runs up and shouts that the guy who did it is the merchant's son they've been looking for. The leader spots the chaos outside and casually asks if our boy is there to settle the debt of his former friend. Jinan just casually mentions that the leader is stuck way up too high. The leader asks if he's scared to climb higher while his team waits below to welcome him. Our boy moves forward calmly, saying that doing these kinds of stunts is just his specialty. When the rowdy man finally stands before the leader, he looks like a giant compared to him. The big guy spots the height difference and grins, bragging that his special skill is looking down on everyone else. Jinan sees the smug look on the guy's face and realizes he's just another street tough who never feels bad for beating someone up, and that's exactly why Jinan likes him. Suddenly, he spots a girl trailing the leader, and she's bleeding badly. The leader catches his gaze, grins hotly, and admits she couldn't hold back her strength. Our boy is so mad at a person who has no conscience, and probably never will. He begs the leader to let the girl go, but he's already planning how to kill the man. Seeing the fierce fire in his eyes, the leader says that anyone brave enough to kill him will have the same look, only to be torn apart by his own hands in the end. While that happens, folks outside are scrambling to get away before the danger hits them. One of the members yells that a crazy person is trying to crash the Passion House. It looks like this crazy guy isn't our boy, but his fake childhood friend who's waving an umbrella and driving everyone away. He has finally swung the umbrella 2,874 times. But he gets frustrated, realizing he hasn't hit 100,000 swings yet, so he starts counting over from the start. Then a huge boom crashes behind him. As he looks back, his mind drifts, wondering if this connects to his friend. While Jinan blasts the leader so hard he crashes through the wall, the young hero doesn't just watch. He leaps in and lands right in front of his opponent. Even though he's been knocked down, the Red Reaper stands right back up and grabs a weapon from his subordinate to face his enemy. He throws the weapon with all his might, but Jinan leaps into the air to dodge it. He tries again, but this time Jinan calmly takes hold of the chain while the hilt is still in the leader's grip. This also lets the Red Reaper test his strength, which turns out to be equal to ours. So, he lets go of the weapon and charges forward to end it all using the push from the blast. He knows Jinan won't be able to stop this attack. As he gazes at the style, our sharp boy instantly knows it's the meteor hammer and fist technique. He also notices that this fighter must have learned from traditional master, since his moves are so clean and precise. However, the leader underestimates him, and Jinan, a master of the fist, effortlessly blocks the attack. Suddenly, he strikes the man hard in the stomach, making him scream out in pain. Seeing the bruise on his stomach, the leader spots Jinan's fighting style, steps up with all his strength, and rushes in to fight him. Without breaking a sweat, Jinan calmly grabs his neck and slams him to the ground. The leader fights with everything he has, yet he can't figure out why he's still losing to this man. Now our boy grabs his face and throws back the leader's own taunt at him, proving that now it is he who stands above Jinan. He then starts the second part of his lightning magic while gripping the leader's screaming, pain-filled face. As the seconds tick by, he pushes the stage higher and higher until he finally unlocks the 5th level. A lowly servant of the Crimson Reaper Alliance watches his boss writhe in agony and cries out, wondering if he should help, but fear holds him back. One of them spots the famous white, lightning, 10-step move. When Jinan is done, everyone stares in shock at the pile of ash where their leader used to stand. Standing up, he glares coldly at the Crimson Reaper group and demands to know who gave him the right to tax the hard-earned money of weak people. Then he challenges them to come fight him if they think their strength is enough, warning that they will meet the same fate as their boss. While the Crimson Reaper Alliance gets excited, thinking that taking down a single man like him should be easy. Then, Mongho looks at him and wonders out loud that if the Red Reaper is dead, they might not have to pay tribute anymore. The man beside him worries that Jinan might soon start asking for tribute money, but Mongho quickly shuts that down, standing firmly by his childhood friend. He knows his friend has plenty of money and will never need to cheat to get by. He begins counting his umbrella swings once more, which makes a passerby stop and call him crazy, watching him hit the umbrella with every new strike. He remembers the moment Jinan challenged him, asking if he really wanted to be a rat or a poisonous fox, as he had claimed. He believes everyone carries a tiny flame of potential inside them. It's his job to make sure that light never goes out. He realizes his friend is pushing himself to the brink of madness, then suddenly stops watching his ally fight the Crimson Reaper goons and shouts that he is the poisonous fox, not a cowardly rat. After fighting the Crimson Reaper Alliance, Jinan leaves the blood on his clothes and doesn't even wash it off when his worried, nerdy brother comes to his door. He claims he was just out for a drink, while his middle brother comes seeking advice. But the worried one really wants to know about the blood, so our boy comforts him, explaining that it isn't his even though his brother already figured that out. Finally, Weian reveals why he came, wanting to thank the merchant groups for their precious elixirs, so he first asked the Taiho group how much their medicine is worth before sending a gift. Just then, Jinan recalls that this very group sent the azurite essence, and he declares its worth is so immense it defies measurement, leaving his brother stunned and unable to grasp how anything could be exchanged for such a priceless treasure. Jinan thinks it's a bad move to send anything out. To his brother's surprise, he suggests making a trading alliance instead. He adds that alongside famous groups like Taiho, smaller ones such as the West Escort Establishment wander without safety, so forming an alliance would be a perfect way to offer them that protection. Huan feels the task is too big, but Jinan tells him to start small by only bringing in the Taiho merchants and Westwind escorts. And while the nervous brother asks about rules and fees, Jinan says to keep things simple and charge nothing for now. His brother is curious about why the alliance was made. At that moment, he recalls the words of the escort establishment rep who had begged for his protection after he drove 2 gangster organizations out of town. He says their job is to keep the merchants safe and to set up a clear way for them to reach him when things get dangerous. His brother warns that even a giant team like the Chiu merchants might get stuck if things turn unexpectedly tough. For instance, if someone from the dangerous underworld of Jianyu comes after them, what kind of move would he make? He says he'll take care of it himself, which makes his brother unsure. He says the merchants gave him strength with medicine, so he can give back to them in that way. Now comes the tricky part of picking a name for the alliance. Huiyan proposes naming it the Great Merchant Alliance, but he rejects the idea to avoid sounding like the dreaded Crimson Reaper Alliance, insisting instead on the title Great Merchant Association. At that moment, Hua reminds him that his workload has grown since his scoundrel brother returned, but Hua simply smiles and says it's good for merchants to stay busy. Right then, one of their own runs in shouting that a fresh trouble has popped up. When questioned, he panics and admits that Lord Ouyang and his disciples have arrived and are already sitting in the main hall of the merchant group. Lord Wang is still angry about being humiliated at the ruler's meeting, so he tells his disciples that each of them must take a turn fighting Jinan until they finally give him a painful death. Plus, winning just once isn't enough to bring their family name back. Everyone follows orders at once, and then Shin Sok asks if his 2 friends plan to use weapons since he's ready to fight with his bare hands. Yang Mayong agrees to fight with his fists, but Wu isn't so sure and plans to use his sword instead, though his brother makes fun of him for it. Wu insists that Jinan can beat Wang Hu, the experienced veteran of the Jiang Hu, while Yang Mayong just laughs it off, thinking Wang Hu never was strong enough. Finally, he sneers and demands his servants bring Jinan himself, but the Yuk brothers show up instead and tell everyone they must head to the annex, as their master has sent for them. Soon enough, the guests gathered in front of our boy, who had been waiting for them all along. He welcomes them, and the three martial artists introduce themselves with a smile. He is surprised to find Lord Wang standing there, who apologizes for showing up without notice, but admits he simply couldn't resist wanting to see his strength. Jinan realizes they have come for a duel and asks for the rules, but Lord Yuan tells him to face all his disciples since they want to learn from him as he explains how it will go. If anyone loses their senses, can't move, or tumbles out of the ring, they're out. Jinan agrees to the simple rules and calls for the match to start, with Maong stepping up first as Lord Yu brags about his son's win, only for Maong to sense that he is facing a seasoned Janghe warrior, proving that Jin's victory over Wang, who was real. Jinan questions his weapon, but before Maong can finish his reply, Jinan lands a hard punch that knocks him into the far wall. The cup in Lord Yuan's hand crumbles under the shock. Jinan calmly tells him he can draw his sword if given the chance, then steps up to challenge the next opponent. Wan steps up to go next, asks Shin to watch over his brother, and Shin says yes. As Wu steps up to face our boy, Jinan pushes him to pour everything he has into the fight, and the match kicks off. Without a second's delay, Wound lunges and slashes his sword free. With a quick flash, he charges at our hero to strike, but Jinan dodges so easily that he realizes Wu is a skilled swordsman. Yet Jinan is sharper, studying Wu's moves as he slips away to dodge every blow with his bare hand before finally switching on his lightning power to go on the attack. Wound braces himself and swings his sword to block the attack. Right after, Jinan unleashes a blinding roar of lightning that strikes his opponent and knocks him down in one powerful hit. Shin can't believe his eyes, so Mayung urges them to call off the fight, warning that if all three of them lose, it will only make things look even worse. But Shin won't back down from a bare-knuckle fight, since he is trained in palm strikes himself. He asks to have a match with our boy. As Jinan sees his fists, he gets truly excited to finally fight someone who knows how to fight. With that, the two fist masters collide. Shin and Jinan trade blows for a while, but Shin gets fed up with Jinan just dodging, so he decides to throw his hardest punch yet to see if Jinan can actually block it. He spins a whirlwind wheel with a crushing palm strike that creates a small tornado rushing at Jinan, who grins at the impressive move, only to remark that it is too big, so he calmly grabs Shin's foot, makes him shout in pain, and throws him hard onto the ground while saying he had a good duel. Mayung is pouting because this loss gave them nothing but bad news. Jinan stares at Lord Oang's angry face, completely puzzled about why he is so upset. Lord Wang shivers with rage, knowing Jinan is unbeatable and that calling for backup is a waste of time. The ruler's pride will be crushed, and he and his family will be laughed at for losing. He decides to try something new and tells Jinan to head to the market with him. He sees how calm everything is there and thinks to himself that Jinan must have lots of suppliers from this quiet spot. He didn't waste another moment and offered Jinan a spot in the ruler's group. He tells Jinan that he doesn't have to bring his whole merchant group along to join as an individual, and his group will still be safe, leaving Jinan stunned since that group already includes famous clans. But he points out that the rulers come from clans that broke away from the Murim Alliance, which used to hold the 9 great sects, and while Lord Yuan agrees, he tries to brush it off by saying they're just friendly rivals. Jinan realizes that the Wang clan, having only recently joined the group, is desperate to fix their reputation after losing, and Lord Yuan confirms this by admitting his own man, Wang, who spread lies that hurt them, even though he holds no grudge against himself. That is why he needs Jin Ion to join the ruler's group, so he can save face. He thinks this is his one shot to prove to his bosses that a guy like Jinan reports to him. Jinan asked what would happen if he said no. Lord Yuan argues that since he's a merchant's son, he should know there's nothing to lose by joining up. Jinan sharply retorts that having plenty of money means he has nothing to do with ordinary martial arts groups. Then he waves him off, bringing the talk to a close. At that, Oang snaps into a rage and threatens to slaughter Jinan's entire group, which briefly halts our boy in his tracks. He tells him he can crush the whole merchant group and make Jinan a public enemy. Then Jinan punches him hard and promises to kill him first before wiping out his entire clan. He even says he'll pass the blame on to Wang's oldest son, warning Wang that he'd better not try anything foolish. Lord Oang still dares to call his words the foulest he's ever heard and claims I am a man without shame or self-control. He unleashes his poisoned toad broad strike, a deadly move trained by Wang specialists just for clan leaders, fully certain that even Jinan's massive power won't be enough to survive it. But he freezes as he sees Jinan's lightning eating away his poison, and then Jinan hits him so hard that Wang crashes into the wall and collapses, coughing blood. Jinan notes that Wang is far weaker than he acts. Yuan urges him to act now, warning that Jinan will be hunted by everyone no matter what, and Wang is certain that Jinan will lose in the end. When Jinan hears this, he steps right up to Wang and whispers darkly that Wang will regret those words for the rest of his life. Soon, everyone spots Jinan pulling Lord Wang by his hair. His sons stare in shock at his broken state, but Ma Young tries to protest only for Jinan to silence him with a grim warning that he will suffer the same fate as his father. While another son frets over his father's life, Jinan assures him the old man is still alive and sends his men to get a carriage ready. The oldest son of Wang pushes back, asking why anyone would dare do such a thing. Jinan explains that his father threatened to kill his merchant group and blame him for it, leaving everyone stunned, so he decides to go to the ruler's meeting to report it himself with the Wang guards as witnesses. Just as Shin is about to move forward, he stops him and points out that the ruler's group has no main office at all. He tells him that clan meetings happen at the leaders' homes, so he decides to head to the nearest one, the Moyang estate. With that, he tells his guards and the Yuk brothers to keep a close eye on Lord Wang's disciple and sons. He then turns to his middle brother and commands him to write a report about today's event for the Murim Alliance. They then head toward the Moyang estate. Meanwhile, in the carriage, Wang,